in a curveball of combat early on, but I thought it would be good to get familiar with the mechanics.
Almost expected it to happen.
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought I was being really like out there.
How I imagined it. That was cool.
Okay, cool. Because I thought like, oh, huh? Sorry, Brappy, I didn't hear you.
That's a good point, Blappy.
I didn't hear what Brappy said.
Oh, he asked his XP thing.
No, in terms of leveling, I'm using the narrative XP rule, which is essentially I'll level you up when I feel it's appropriate. Because it works better. And I have a plan, like the Cylons, so you just have to trust me.
Okie doke.
So essentially you'll level up at what seems an appropriate narrative point. But given that you just like split two gnolls in two with a swing of your axe, I think you're okay for now. And by you I mean Blappy.
Need more power.
Okay, so you should, if I've done everything right, now be seeing a kind of artwork picture of what Prosperity Junction looks like a Wild West town with a steampunk gentleman in the foreground. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so like I sort of said at the beginning, the non-combat-y in-town bits I'm going to sort of treat in the theatre of the mind, please use your imaginations kind of area, if that's okay with everybody. Because you've no idea how long it takes to make a bloody map. So, essentially, after the kind of a fuck-up of what happened to your train, you are now riding with the Red Hammer Dwarven clan and their friends on the backs of various brocks, which are badgers, and horses, heading into town. So while you're kind of like holding on to these horses and badgers as you ride into town, and this town is getting bigger, it's sort of essentially what you'd imagine as a typical Wild West town. Like, there's lots of wooden buildings that look like they've been put up recently, kind of rising up on the horizon and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know if any of you want to sort of talk with the Red Hammers while you're riding, or if you just want to kind of hold on and get into town.
How long are we riding for?
It's about a sort of 15-20 minute ride. Like, you're about a couple of miles away from town. Like, the Arc Gate dumped the train in, yeah, a couple of miles away from town. And then
Okay,
the
so
Red
it's not
Hammers...
long enough to, like, regen some mana points or anything.
Oh, yeah, if you want to treat it in terms of, like, resting and letting your health and mana go up, yeah, you can treat it as a short rest and your mana points are filled up.
Filled up? Okay.
Yeah. I need to double check how all that sort of thing works, but for narrative purposes, you're good. You're at max health and mana.
Twig just spends the majority of the time sort of looking over the damage on Dexis, like muttering to herself. Semi-hopefully.
That's a point. How is Dexis being transported? Is Dexis on a separate mount?
Lashed to the back of one of the
Okay.
rocks.
Poor badger.
So I guess everyone.
He's got flat feet. His feet are, like, flat underneath, so it's not gonna hurt much.
I guess though, like, you can't fix Dexis right now.
Oh no, I'm not fixing him. I'm just sort of looking at the damage.
Looking at it, like, oh, my friend is hurt, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay,
Just assessing.
so the bunch of you ride into town. You can see, like, even as you're riding in, that the town has clearly been attacked. In addition to the train line, like, there are several buildings on fire, and like the local citizens, like a whole range of halflings, gnomes, dwarves, orcs, humans, everybody you could even think of, like, is kind of like making a bucket chain, is putting out fires, is sort of dealing or looking after the injured, is essentially dealing with the aftermath of an attack. The Red Hammer sort of convoy that you're riding with sort of pulls up, sort of rides through a few streets and then kind of, stops in the sort of center of town, which is sort of a square with kind of like a long big street going in either direction. Like, you're essentially surrounded by various wooden buildings and shops. So the dwarves get off their horses and they help you down if you need it. Magnus Redhammer, who's the sort of big ginger dwarf who you've been talking to, says, kind of like sort of makes a hissing noise, like, I guess I better introduce you to the mayor of town. Normally newcomers get introduced at the station, but this isn't exactly a normal day. So he says, follow me. And he tells you that you're walking down Gold Street, which is sort of the main street of Prosperity Junction. Just imagine every Western you've ever seen with that kind of that street where they always have their gunfights. Yeah, the high noon gunfight street. There's saloons and shops and basically all that kind of thing along a sort of a long, wide, dusty street. That's Gold Street, that's where you are. And there, at the end of the street, is the train station, which is where you would have got off if shit hadn't happened. And around the station, there is a big crowd of people who you assume are the residents of Prosperity Junction. And they are not happy. They are chanting, and they are shouting, and they are raising their fists. And on the sort of high area by the station, which is kind of a stage, there is this little gnome. She kind of has a rocket pack on her back, and she's kind of she's wearing very fine clothes, and she's got a monocle, and she kind of stands out as this rather remarkable person, despite the fact that she's only about 3 feet tall. And she is addressing the crowd, and she's sort of calling for calm and saying, things like, it'll be okay, please, please, can you listen to me? I am your mayor, you need to trust in me. So that's what's happening as you and the Magnus Redhammer, the dwarf, are kind of approaching the back of the crowd. What might you like to do?
I'm just gonna stay near. Is it Nyx, the little girl?
Nyx, the little girl. Let's say that Kavod is still carrying her. Maybe Kavod carried her on the way into town, and Kavod is now still carrying her in his arms. Wilf Calpurnia, the hobgoblin, is kind of following very close, uncomfortably close behind.
Okay, I'm just gonna listen to what the gnome woman is saying, but I'm keeping my eyes firmly on this girl, making sure she doesn't explode again or anything.
Sure, that's a reasonable thing to do. Yep.
I walk literally sort of almost having to stop myself from running. I'm almost running towards the gnome in sort of oh my god, this is amazing type style.
Yeah.
I'm enthralled. Twig
Okay.
is absolutely beside herself. Oh my god. This is incredible.
It's exciting, you're kind of maybe bobbing off the ground because you can fly, your wings are thrumming, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So, this gnome is on the stage. Now that you've got a moment to catch your breath and really look at what's happening, you see that, okay, you've got this gnome on the stage. To the side of her, interestingly to Twig, there's this fae, this fae male. Fae age is a little hard to judge, but there is a fae man there, like kind of in a hooded cloak, with 3 sort of solar-powered bots around him, carrying like books and scrolls and that kind of thing, like essentially lots of paperwork are carried by these bots, and this little Fae is kind of hovering like next to the stage where the gnome is speaking. And either side of the stage where the gnome is speaking, there are these 2 human, well, essentially cowboys, like, you know, like they're in kind of like leather coats, and they've got like the classic cowboy hats, and they've clearly got like their hands on their guns, like pistols which are in their holsters, and they're eyeing the crowd quite warily. And this gnome is just still talking, and you can kind of see as she talks that the crowd is maybe growing calmer. She's basically saying, look, my name is Medjugorje Cog. I am the ATC chief. I am the mayor of your town via the democratic election that you held. I realize that today has been a terrible day. Like, our town has been attacked by the Blackpool bandits, but we have dealt with worse than this. We have survived worse than this. And while today you might be scared, ultimately everything will be okay. And as she kind of talks with that sort of rhetoric, you can see the crowd is calming down. They might not be happy, but they're calming down.
Am I able to like just shout things at the gnome?
If you want to, yeah, go for it.
What are they called? No, Blackpool bandits. We just killed a whole bunch of those. Just off where the arc reactor is.
Okay, so she kind of like raises a hand to you, and she says, and Prosperity Junction and the ATC, the Adventure Trading Company, thanks you for killing those bandits. The Confederate Rangers in town have also killed the bandits who attacked the bank here in this very street, in Gold Street. Like, we have fought off those bandits, and we have had a great victory today. I know that you're scared. I know that you're worried that the Arc Gate has been damaged. But the ATC is prepared for this. We have always been prepared for the eventuality that the Arc Gate might leave us cut off from our home world. And we will fix the Arc Gate, and we will prosper. And there's, at that point, like, that's kind of when the crowd turns from being angry to kind of being excited. Like, they start sort of cheering. Maybe some people in the crowd are like sort of murmuring and they're not quite happy, but most of the crowd is kind of like cheering, and they're kind of like ATC as a chant. ATC, ATC, ATC.
I have gotten caught up in that, and I'm also chanting.
Okay, sure. Does anyone else want to do anything, or are you happy to continue?
You said there were guards standing around, right?
Yeah, there's like a couple of guys with like a couple of humans with like pistols in their belt. Like, they're clearly there to protect the gnome who's on the stage.
Okay. Oh, are they standing next to her?
Yeah, they're like standing either side of the stage.
Are there any like maps of the place? Like, is there like a?
Do you want to look around and maybe make a perception test?
Just have a glance around, see if I can kind of get my bearings.
Okay, so yeah, if you want to just do a perception test for the fun of making you do tests.
It's 1, so 3d6 plus
3d6 plus 1, yeah.
13.
Okay, yeah, so you see there's like kind of a notice board against one of the buildings. The building's got this sign above it. Like, it's sort of this 4-story building. It's probably the biggest building in town. And it's got this sign above it that says Brave Star Saloon. And you don't know what that means, but there is this notice board like next to the main door. And you can go up to it if you want.
Go up and have a look.
Yeah, sure. So the notice board kind of like has all this various pieces of parchment nailed to it. Um,
Can I read them?
yeah, totally. I mean, some of them are just kind of like really sort of fairly humdrum stuff, like people asking for work, people looking for work, that kind of thing. Sorry, I've forgotten what you were actually looking for in the first place.
Just to look around and sort of see if is there anything on there that stands out. That might, like a map or anything, or someone.
Okay, yeah, there is sort of a map of town, like in the
I'm
bottom
gonna take it.
corner.
I'm gonna put it in my book.
Okay, yeah, sure, you can do that. So it's got a kind of a map of town.
Okay.
Hang on, give me 1 second.
I'm just gonna like unceremoniously like pull it off.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Like the crowd is kind of focused on what's happening on stage, so no one really notices you're doing that.
I'm not even acting like shiftily. I'm just gonna.
No, I'm just saying, like, no one notices. Okay, so you got this map.
Can I just interject really quickly? Because through really shitty circumstances, I'm gonna have to disappear for like 10 minutes, maybe quarter of an hour, because essentially my mum's boyfriend's terrible partner has just dropped off a whole bunch of like metal crap on our garden.
No, that's fine, man. Don't worry.
To go and help put away. So not thrilled.
That's cool. Maybe your character is just kind of like sucked into the crowd.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right,
cool.
I'll be right back.
Okay, so I've kind of put a link to the wiki in the Discord text channel. Basically, this has all the main locations that you see on the map that you pull off the board. So you see stuff like Gold Street, which is where you are, and you can kind of work that out. Like, there's a big "You Are Here" red dot on it. There's the train station. There's the Brave Star Saloon, which is the saloon that you just pull. You pull the thing off the notice board off. You notice a few other things, like there's a Confederate Rangers station. Like, the Confederate Rangers are, like the law, essentially. There's sheriffs. You notice a couple of other things on there, like there's a founding chapel, which is the chapel that you remember the dwarf Magnus Redhammer said to you, which is where healing can be found. You see a couple of other things on there, like the Zeppelin Tower, and there's a graveyard, and there's a steamworks, which is sort of the catch-all term for anywhere where engineering is done. But basically, if you want to have a little look at that link, basically everywhere in that wiki that's listed, you can see on your map, but nobody else really can. You can share it with them if you want.
Okay. I'll just kind of tuck it away in my book, and then I'll put it back on my back and just kind of walk back over.
Okay, so you don't share it with anyone, you just sort of keep it for posterity.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this gnome kind of talks to the crowd for like several minutes maybe, and they're kind of like, they go from, she's very good with the crowd, so they go from being quite angry to being like chanting and very supportive of what she's doing, and there's a lot of clapping and cheering, and Twig, who was with you, kind of gets swept up in that and starts cheering and stuff like that. Once the gnome is done, she kind of like leaves the stage, and this other human kind of like takes the stage and kind of like is clearly some sort of functionary. They start like listing tasks for repair crews for fixing up the town, and instructions to mining crews that they should resume their normal duties and stuff like that. Magnus, who is the very ginger dwarf who kind of like led you into town, he kind of like beckons you to sort of follow him into a building. Do you want to go with him, or do you want to stay with the crowd?
I'll follow him, and I'm just kind of like acting as I'm gonna gesture that like Kavod should follow me.
Well, I check it's okay with the hobgoblin.
Okay, so yeah, you've got Nyx in your arms. She beckons to you to kind of like put Nyx into her arms, and she offers her arms up.
Sure, I pass.
Okay, so you pass this young Saurian girl, Nyx, into her arms, and she goes off with another one of the dwarfs, who is sort of like directing her somewhere, and they disappear off down the street.
Saying this, can I stop following the other dwarf and start following the kid?
Yeah, you can if you want to.
Okay, I'm just gonna follow them.
Okay,
I'm gonna
so
follow him.
okay. Bwap, do you want to do the same sort of thing?
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so this sort of whatever lesser dwarf leads Calpurnia, the hobgoblin, carrying the Saurian girl down Gold Street, sort of past several shops. And at the far end of the street, which is essentially the edge of town, because you can walk across this town in about 10 minutes. There's this chapel, a very basic chapel. It's made of wood. It's got like one steeple and kind of like one bell tower going on with it. And the dwarf sort of like leads her up to the front door, and then he sort of does a little bow, and he sort of gestures that Calpurnia, the hobgoblin, should go inside, and Calpurnia just goes inside. And I'm assuming you'd like to follow her inside.
Yeah. Has Magnus Redhammer noticed that we didn't follow him?
Yeah, he has, but he's stayed with the crowd.
Oh, he stayed with them. Okay. Can I turn around and can I tell Cavod in Saurian? Can you go and find out what he wanted?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. What do you want to do?
Can I ask Canny to Cavod? Can I ask can you go and see what that dwarf wanted?
I mean, you can. I think you're quite bossy, but it's up to Canny what he wants to do.
I'm not trying to boss him around. I'm just asking him if he would.
No, sure. I'll go check it. So I'll walk over to the dwarf and ask him what is up. What does he want?
Okay, so Cavod goes up to this dwarf, and he basically says, when asked, that he was essentially leading Calpurnia to the Founding Chapel. The Founding Chapel is essentially... he sort of explains very quickly. The Founding Chapel is the only church in town. It's where the pilgrims gather. The pilgrims... Well, okay, why don't you make a perception... let's see. You can make a test of some sort. Let me just decide what kind of test you need to make.
Oh no.
I think, do you have any, history...
No.
Law? Okay, Cavod, make an intelligence test. Just, 3d6 plus your intelligence to see if you know what, the Church of the Lone Rider is, because that's what the dwarf says. This is the only church in town. It's the pilgrims who worship the Church of the Lone Rider.
Got 13.
Okay, sure. So you make that. So you've heard of these guys, these people who call themselves pilgrims. They were kind of a big deal during the Civil War. They're this slightly odd, newfangled religion. They kind of combine a lot of the old religions of Verdant into one. So they say all of these different gods that people used to worship, they're actually faces or aspects of the one true god, which is the Lone Rider, which is this wandering prophet figure that they worship. And you didn't know that they'd come to Umber, but apparently they have, so you kind of recognize them as essentially they're a fairly new religion who believe in helping people and healing and that kind of thing. And Calpurnia has essentially gone inside while this dwarf is talking to you.
Okay. Tell Krozak all this.
Okay, so you head back and say, okay,
Yeah.
this hobgoblin took the kid in there, and that's what happened.
I'm just gonna like get my book out and I'm gonna show him the map, and I'll show Wappy as well. Like, this is where we are, and I'll just hand it to them, and I'll leave them standing there, and I'll just go inside and see if I can find where the hobgoblin's gone.
Okay, so you want to follow. Essentially, you want to go into the chapel.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm also eating my dinner at the same time.
I just want to say I'm not trying to be all bossy and like take control. It's just I guess my character's like used to just telling other Saurians what to do.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I guess the only question I want to ask is whether Blint and Calvord want to follow you into the chapel, or if they're more interested in what's happening with the crowd. Like, they can follow you in, or they can stay outside. Okay. Fair enough. Kenny?
Just being outside the door.
Okay.
Or we need to come back out.
So, briefly what happens when Crosset goes inside. It's a very basic chapel. Like, it's a simple wooden building. It's like 2 stories high. There's no floors. It's a fairly typical church, essentially. And all that there is in terms of decoration is that there's this sort of silver horseshoe which is suspended from the ceiling of the chapel, and that's the symbol of the Lone Rider that these pilgrims worship. And Calpurnia the Hobgoblin has sort of carried the body of the Saurian girl up to the altar where like 3 hooded people are waiting, and they put her down on the altar, which is just a very simple stone slab, and they sort of essentially they examine her medically, and they tell Calpurnia like simply like, as you know, we can't see anything wrong with her, she just has to wake up. So I don't know if Krosik wants to do anything there, or it's up to you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna like walk up, look at the girl, and then I'm gonna like ask Calpurnia like, do you know what's happening to her? Do you understand? Because I guess my character kind of knows what's going on a bit.
Yeah. Okay, so Calpurnia kind of looks at you warily, and she says, "The girl's special, and she saved us all. That's all you need to know right now."
Would I be able to tell that she's like being evasive, or would I just think like she doesn't understand what?
You can make a perception check.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
guess
keep
so.
making you do checks because I want
That's
to get you practicing with the system.
I want to see if she's trying to fob me off, or if she's actually just doesn't know.
Okay,
Hold on, let me find it.
so your perception is like +1, so 3d6 was 1.
I think I've got 11.
You can tell that she's holding something back, but like, you don't know what.
I'm gonna say like I understand what kind of magic she's using, and I know what she is.
Okay, fair enough. So Calpurnia kind of like looks at you like levelly, like, oh, obviously she's a hobgoblin, so she's smaller than you, but she kind of like gives you this really fixed stare, and she's like, "So you understand how important she is?"
I'll say like, well, I didn't heal her for nothing.
And she says that she's grateful for that.
Before I go, I'm just gonna ask like, how can I get in contact? Where are you going after this? I want to keep in contact.
She kind of looks about the whole chapel, and she looks at the hooded people who are tending to Nyx, and she just goes, "I don't know.
Can
I want
can I
she's
offer her my book, like a pen.
your pen."
Yeah, can I like something to write with? Can I,
Oh, sure,
can I
okay.
write it now?
Okay, so she basically takes your pen and your book, and she sort of starts drawing this very rough map, with a sort of big cross that shows where Prosperity Junction is, and then sort of this dotted line up to this point. And at the point, which is sort of marked with a circle, she writes Gil's Ranch. And she basically, she looks at you again and she says, "We'll be heading there. It's the only safe place that I know anymore."
Okay. I'm just gonna be like, right, and I'm like, my character probably has loads of like trinkets and like little bits, and I'm gonna like pull one of them off and just like I'll put it on the girl and then I'll just walk out.
Okay, so maybe you have like a, I don't know, like a Saurian traditional,
Just like a charm or something.
yeah, charm around your neck, that you take off and you maybe put on next, and then you leave.
And I'll just leave, and I'll just go and meet up with.
Okay, cool, yeah. So when you come back, Cavod and Blint have kind of just been hanging around at the back of the crowd with Magnus. You've completely lost sight of Twig, but, you know, you're not too fussed about that. Like, this gnome woman seems to have complete control of the crowd. Like, she's got them, like, chanting the ACC mantra, and everyone's happy. So she leaves the stage. Again, that kind of human guy comes up and starts like making announcements. You see that the gnome and the little fey folk assistant she has kind of like retreat into this big building. It's a sort of wooden building that acts as an annex to the train station. They disappear inside. And Magnus Redhammer, the dwarf, kind of like just looks at you and goes, "I should probably introduce you to the mayor. Why don't you come with me?" And he sort of beckons you and heads towards the same building.
Have Wappy and Canny already gone in there?
Bappy and Canny are where you are, like, at the back of the crowd. Like, I mean, if you want to follow him, that's fine. If you want to say, screw this and go somewhere else, that's also fine.
I'll just see what Cavod and
Yeah, I start following the door.
I'll just follow him.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, you follow him inside the building. I think I even have something for this. Hang on. Oh my god, the screen's loading. So this is kind of what I said again about like, oh, we'll have some artwork to depict the scene if it's not absolutely 100% necessary to say exactly where you are. So inside this building, which like I said is this sort of like wooden building that is an annex to the big train station, there's lots of sort of like whirring and clicking that's sort of rebounding off the walls, and as you enter you see you've got this marble floor office with lots of machines everywhere. Some of them are sort of pumping out these reels of parchment with printed letters on them. Others seem to be like turning various cogs and levers and like, I don't know, like just powering stuff that extends into other rooms that you can't even see. Through this window you can see various steam-powered engines. It's a fairly typical thing that you would see. Like, if you were back home, you would assume this was a, I don't know, like the headquarters of a fairly powerful corporation or something like that. Like, you're used to seeing these sorts of machines sort of clicking and whirring everywhere. So the gnome who had come in here is sort of hanging around in the lobby, and with Magnus, the dwarf, kind of like beckons you in. He's kind of guiding you the whole way with beckoning gestures, and he kind of introduces you. He says, "My friends, this is Metrogale Cog. She is mayor of our town, and she is the chief of the adventure trading company on Umber. Metrogale, I'd like you to meet my friends," and he introduces you by name. So that you know.
I'll sort of like nod at them.
Yeah. So he sort of like introduces you in turn, and he explains, you know, that you essentially fought off the Null attack on the Arcgate. She's quite an awkward woman. She wears this kind of exoskeleton, which seems steam powered. So she's kind of like almost in this bronze armor with lots of whirring gears.
I'm back.
Oh hi.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry about
so-
that. My mum's boyfriend puts up speaker towers for a living, and his partner's like known to be unreliable and just drop them all off at 9 o'clock at night. So not best pleased.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Twig has come in late, but essentially everyone else has followed Magnus Redhammer into this building, which is like this wooden building next to the train station, to meet the mayor of the town, which is the gnome who was speaking on the stage earlier. He's introducing her as Metrogale Cog. She's this kind of like gnome chief of the ATC, and she's the duly elected mayor. And Magnus is introducing everyone to Metrogale in turn, and as Twig and Devix kind of like come in, sorry, Dexis, sort of like come in like sort of late. He kind of like goes, "Oh, and this is the Fey folk lady who, you know, so valiant for the pack leader and her automaton friend, and this gnome Metrogale who wears this kind of rocket powered armor, kind of like gives you a small bow, like it's not much more than a bow of the head. And he says,
Okay.
you know, the town of Prosperity Junction and the Adventure Trading Company thank you for your service. She says it's just a shame that you weren't able to help defend the town against the bandits who attacked us. And sort of following in on the heels of Twig is Gilchrist, the sort of the awkward halfling who you knew from the train. And he's kind of been brought in slightly injured on the arm of one of the dwarfs who is, like, you know, affiliated with Magnus. And he sort of comes in carrying his book, and he's like, "Ah, my mare, my lady, I am here. I've finally arrived." And she sort of looks at him weirdly, and she like asks, "Who are you?" And he introduces himself as, you know, I'm Samuel Gilchrist. I'm here to help the Rangers to defend this town. And she just looks at him like he's just a complete idiot, and she goes, "All of the Confederate Rangers who were in this town died defending the town against the Blackpool bandits." And Gilchrist just kind of like looks down at the book that he carries in his hands, and he's like, "Oh, I'm too late. I'm too late. Too late." And he just kind of looks sad and looks down at his book, and that's all he's got to say.
I pat him on the shoulder, like, it's okay.
Okay.
I like to imagine that Twig has somehow managed to find a little flag that says ATC on it, and she's just kind of like,
yeah, I think she totally has. Like some sort of crowd banner.
I've got like wrapped sort of half around me, and like it's huge as well. It's way too big.
just like ATC. Oh, is Gilchrist still hurt? Because I remember he got injured. I'm gonna like go over and.
Yeah, he's kind of limping a bit, but like He doesn't seem to be making a big deal of it, but you're a healer, so you maybe notice that he's hurt.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and see if he wants some help. And
He- Oh, he sort of like waves a hand at you and says, "Oh, no, it's just a flesh wound, just a flesh wound." And then, in a lower voice, he kind of says, "It does hurt quite a bit. Just a bit."
I'll ask, like, can I have a chair for him?
Okay, so, as I mentioned earlier, the Metrogale, the gnome mare, she has this assistant who is a fey folk called Hob. Essentially, he flutters over. He has these like army of little robots, quite similar to the ones that Twig uses, and many of them are sort of carrying books and parchments and stuff. But there's a couple of them that have like nothing in their arms, and they scuttle forward, and Hob sort of flutters forward on his wings. And he bids the solar bots to move a chair forward, and Gilchrist just like sort of slumps into that chair.
I'll just start patching him up whilst the others talk to the mayor.
Okay, so this Fey Hob, he sort of maybe catches Twig's eye, and just says, "It's nice to see one of my people on Umber. It's been so lonely here."
I speak back in Fey, just saying, we're not exactly the most adventurous as races go, but it's nice to see you two.
He sort of chuckles and is like, "Yes, that's true." And then he kind of like returns to making sure his bots are sort of, looking after Gilchrist, who's suddenly making a bit of a show of, like, the fact that he needs help.
I'm just like, I'm gonna get out some really nasty tasting herbs and I'm gonna make him eat them. And just
Okay. Like, so he sort of looks at this handful of gunk that you give him, and he goes,
So they have like no medicinal effect, so just
"Okay."
he's not.
So he sort of looks at it, and then he's just like, "Oh, okay, if it'll help." And he kind of, that just like, scoops it out of your hand and downs it. And he looks like he's gonna vomit, but then he sort of holds it down.
Discord crash.
No.
Why?
So-
Why did you think Discord crashed?
Oh, no one was talking.
Oh, did you not hear what I just said about him downing the stuff?
Oh no, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay. I was basically saying that like Gilchrist kind of like takes the handful of gunk from you,
Yeah, it's just like mud.
and he's just like, "Oh, well, if it'll help," and he sort of downs it, and he looks pretty disgusted at what's happening to him, but he swallows hard and just holds it down.
Yeah.
And then he looks at you with these big brown eyes, and he's just like, "Will I be okay now?"
I'll just look at him and look at his leg and just like shake my head and then just stand up and go back to the other people.
Okay.
Can I go and talk to, what is her name?
Metrogale, the gnome, who's the mayor. Yeah, she's kind of like talking with Magnus, and there's a lot of sort of hushed whispers, but you kind of hear what she's saying, like, "Why did he bring these people here? So and so." And then she sees you approaching, and she's like, "My friend! The town of Prosperity Junction welcomes you!"
I happened to see the devastation of the Arc Gate. We came through it literally as it was being destroyed. And as a sort of budding engine, well, more than budding, I've got my fair share of mechanical knowledge, but as a sort of intermediate level engineer, I offer my services to help repair the gate.
She sort of looks at you and kind of like, assesses you. Obviously, you're not very big, so she kind of just like looks you up and down and goes, "Okay, right, yeah." And she goes, "Yes, we will need many engineers to repair the gate. I I'm honestly not sure what it will take. Perhaps you could talk with Corvin at the Archaeological Society. He's surely our greatest expert on form crafting. Like, he's probably the best person for you to talk to.
I will do just that. Where can I find him?
She's sort of like, like scratches at her eyebrow, and she's like, "Oh, the Archaeological Society. It's like, oh, it's sort of down at the end of Gold Street, isn't it? I rarely go there." And then, like, maybe Magnus looks at you and goes, I can, and he sort of quietly says, I can take you there later. Don't worry about it.
I catch his eye and I nod. And then wander back into the rest of the group.
Okay. So, Metrogale kind of like, she sort of does a little talking with Magnus, and then she goes over to Gilchrist, who's sitting on his chair, looking a little ill after the weird herbs that Krosek gave him. And she basically sort of pats him on the shoulder and says, "There's no easy way to say this, but the sheriff and his rangers died defending the town today. I know that you were sent here to be a deputy, but by the power invested in me, I am now naming you head sheriff of Prosperity Junction."
I'm just gonna look at her like, what?
Nice sigh.
And this sort of like rather sniffly red-faced halfling looks up at her with slightly terrified eyes and goes, "Me?" And she says, "Yes, you. The ATC can't, take part in law enforcement. That rests with the Confederate Rangers. You are the only ranger, so I name you sheriff of this town. And I charge you with resolving what's happened to us. We've been attacked by these Blackpool bandits. What are you going to do about it?" And Gilchrist just his lip quivers, and he looks at her, and he just doesn't have words. He's just like stammering like a useless idiot and clutching his book. No. He like panic. He's just kind of like clutching his book, his lips quivering, and he's just like, yeah, like he's not making words. And then Magnus, who's kind of been watching this whole thing, he sort of like maybe like gathers you guys to one side while Metrogale is talking to this guy, and she's like, this halfling's gonna need help. It's not really my place to say. Like, I'm not mayor. I'm not part of the company. But just look at him. Like, this man's an idiot.
I'm just gonna nod. not look at him and nod. I'm just gonna half
Yeah. And he kind of whispers to you and says, "Look, those bandits must have been supplied by someone. Like simple gnolls shouldn't have had explosive weapons like those people had. Not like those people had. So I'm not sure, but I think if Gilchrist is the sheriff, he can make you deputies. He can deputize you. Like, Lord knows the boys need some help. So if you could help him out, I'm sure the town would appreciate it. But I mean, you people have just arrived here. I can't ask you to do something like this. I'm just suggesting." And then he sort of nods respectfully, and he sort of backs away and leaves you, sort of the group of you, in a little huddle.
Being the annoyingly chipper person I am, I say a bit too sort of loudly, "We'll do our best."
I'll just kind of I'll nod and mutter my agreement as Twig says that, and be like, well, I guess we all came here for a similar reason anyway, so. And then I'll look at Cavod.
Okay, do Cavod and Blint do anything, or are they just kind of like hovering?
Just don't say anything, but noises of agreement. Just like,
Okay, so when Twig has this outburst, like Gilchrist's sort of like little eyes fall on you, and he's like, yes, yes, Rule 74, and he kind of like picks up his book and he starts flicking through the pages, and he's like, yes, yes, here it is. In extreme circumstances, a sheriff may deputize members of the community to assist him in a criminal investigation. And he kind of goes, yes, 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 and he starts pounding the book with his fist. And he goes, you can be my deputies, you who saved me from the evil, evil bandits. And he just sort of looks at you with his big eyes, and he's just like, would you help me? Would you be my deputies?
Frantically waves the ATC banner.
I'll look at him and then sort of make a very big show of like sighing and like, yes, I guess we'll stay for now. Not wanting to talk for my group here, but
yeah, why not?
I'll say like, I imagine some of these people will want paying. Do you think? What can you do to?
Sorry, which people do you think want paying?
Well, like the people like Wappy and Canny and Toy.
Oh, those people.
Yeah,
Oh, right, okay. So he sort of starts like going, oh yes, 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 of course, there must be suitable recompense, and he starts flicking through his book again. It's like, yes, Rule 74.4/B. All deputies are required to receive suitable recompense at a pay of 1 silver per day, or in a special case, 8 silver for each outlaw brought in. So he just kind of looks at you and sort of babbles a little bit more, and it's kind of
just sort of like nod and say, yeah, can we just have a place to stay for now? Or maybe say that to the mayor.
sure. Yeah. Okay. So Metro Girl's kind of already forgotten you. She's been like talking with Hob, her Fey Folk little assistant. And when she sees you're talking to her, she goes, yes, 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 it'll all be taken care of, and she leaves. Like, she just walks out the door. And Hob, the little Fey Folk with his like sort of 5 solar bots clustered around him, goes in a sort of reedy little voice, just goes, we can't really give you anywhere to stay, but if you inquire at the saloon, maybe they can help you. And then he kind of like gives this sullen, put down look at Twig, and then follows Metrogale out the door, and the little bots scurry after him.
Aww. I just want to give Hob a hug. Poor guy.
So they leave, and Magnus goes, that's not bad advice. I'd ask, at the Brave Star Saloon if you want some help, or if you need a place to stay. Also, I saw what you did today. You helped save this town, and you helped save the Arc Gate. Like, it might be damaged, but our town needs the Arc Gate, so we're glad it wasn't destroyed. If you ever want to visit my clan at the Rune Forge, you are always welcome. And with that, he sort of gives you a little bow. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Was his name Magnus Redhammer?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
So he basically says, if you ever want to visit us at the Rune Forge, it's just it's just a mile out of town. You're always welcome to visit us. And then he gives you a second little bow, and he leaves. So you're just sort of left the. It's coming up on sunset, yeah.
I'm gonna walk over to the little was he a halfling, this guy?
What, Gilchrist? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like this very bulbous little halfling.
I'm just gonna kind of like pull him out of the chair and be like, not like brush him off, but like kind of get him settled, and then like, so what's first then?
Okay, he just sort of looks at you, like very confused, and he goes, "Oh, I suppose we should see what the ranger station is like."
No, okay, well, I'll hand him the map then, and say, well, there you
Oh,
go.
you give him the map. Okay, sure. So, okay, if you guys wanna follow him, he kind of like uses the map, and he takes you outside. And the crowd is sort of still there, but they've dispersed a little. They're sort of like mingling and chatting and stuff like that. Several of them seem to be going into the Brave Star Saloon, which you've which is the place, the bar that you took the map off the notice board of. Gilchrist picks up the map, and he looks at it real hard, and then he realizes something, and he turns it upside down, and he realizes that's the right way up, and he then starts marching off down the street, like past various shops, and you can follow him if you wish, or you can do something else if you want to.
Okay, so what do we do? Do we go into the saloon, or should we go into the ranger station? As in everyone else, what do you reckon?
We should
I
check
want
the ranger station first.
I'm thirsty.
in game or IRL?
Yeah.
Both. Yeah. Let's go to the saloon then, unless anyone has any objections.
Yeah, I'll say like I guess that kid won't miss us so much. Yeah, I'll just agree with Twig.
Well, hopefully you can get all the work done before we turn up then.
Okay, fair enough.
So we're going to leave him to go, and we'll go towards the saloon.
I'm almost like half watching him out of the side of my eye to see if he like turns around at any point.
No, he sort of like follows the map, and then he almost seems to be walking around on a circle in the street, like occasionally looking up and going, okay, and then he sort of just carries on walking in a straight line for a bit, and then starts walking in a circle again.
Okay, I'll just sort of shake my head and then walk into the saloon.
Okay, fair enough. So we have a thing for that. Dun, 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 dun. So you should have a little artwork of a saloon now.
God, what's that thing over the bar?
Okay, so
Yeah, blow his head.
Yeah. No. Okay, carry on.
okay, so you walk into the saloon. As I sort of mentioned earlier, it's easily the largest building in the town. It has all these kind of like steam engines and pipes going all around the place, but they don't seem to be doing anything. So it has this sort of atmosphere of a warehouse or a factory that's a bit defunct. But as you walked up the stairs, it takes on a more conventional saloon atmosphere. Like you see, there's a bar on the ground floor, and then as you walk up the stairs, there's another bar at the top of the stairs. Above that bar at the top of the stairs, there's this kind of like, you don't even know what it is. There's the head of some sort of monster mounted above it. With
Can I
one...
make a check to see if I know what it is?
Yeah, sure. You can make a I guess an arcane or a history lore check.
I have both. I have arcane and historical.
Okay, so feel free to make a check with your intelligence and +2 for a focus.
18.
Okay, so even though you've never seen one before, you've read a few accounts of the, you know, the strange and wonderful things that people have been encountering on the frontier of Umber. And you know that this is essentially what's called a cyclops. There are a number of giant creatures that adventurers, you know, say they've encountered, although they've never been verified. They say they've encountered these giant horned creatures, like easily sort of 12 to 15 feet in height. And that among them, there are these cyclops creatures which have one eye and seem to be able to wield quite powerful magic. And when you look at this thing mounted above the bar, that's what jumps into your mind. You're like, okay. Like, maybe those people weren't making stuff up after all. Like, that looks exactly what they were talking about.
Okay. Does it look real, or?
Oh yeah, it looks totally real. It smells terrible.
Oh, okay.
Like, as you walk up the stairs, there's this kind of stench of rotting meat. And you're kind of surprised that, like, there's this, as you can see in there, there's this sort of, like, hooded dwarf bartender with this big long grey moustache, and you're kind of like, why are you not throwing up? Because that's what I want to do right now from the smell of this thing above your bar.
I'll just look at him. And
Right,
laugh
so
at him.
I am gonna go up to this dwarf bartender, and you know I'm small enough that I'm just gonna fly literally directly onto the bar
Okay,
and
yeah.
say to him, so can you tell me anything about the ATC? You know, what are they doing at the moment?
Okay, so this dwarf sort of looks at you, kind of confused, and he just goes, what do you mean, what are the ATC doing, little man? Like, the ATC do everything.
I'm like, indignantly, first off, I'm a girl. And
Okay, yeah, sorry.
I mean, what's their current project? You know, now that they've got, you know, apart from the arc gate being partially disrupted, I mean, they must have been doing something before that.
Okay, so he sort of looks at you and goes, oh, you're a girl. It's hard to tell with you Fey folk. He kind of like shrugs it off. You know, despite the fact he made a massive social faux pas. And he goes, I don't know what you mean. Like, the ATC do everything. The ATC do mining, they do form crafting, they do engineering. Like, they're making the train network that like connects our towns. They're exploring. You know, this new world. They're setting up the colonists in Blessed Creek. He sort of stammers at you, and he's just sort of, I don't know, what do you mean? The ATC do everything.
Sort of nod. I'm like, oh, okay. So, what about this this mayor? Like, how long has she been in power?
Oh, Metrogale. And he kind of, you know, he almost stares into the distance, and he's like, ah, Metrogale. Metrogale was here when I first got here. Metrogale's like the mayor of the town. I mean, she's the heart of Prosperity Junction. I could tell you 1,000 things about her.
Sighing, feeling as though I'm not really getting anywhere.
Yeah.
I order a drink.
Okay, sure. What would you like to order?
Do you have any Fey nectar about? Do you happen to have any imported?
Okay. For fun, let's say make a communication check.
Right, so I've got 3 as my communication, so it's what?
So 3d6 plus 3, yeah. Okay, so you say that, and you look him straight in the eye, and he sort of looks at you oddly for a moment, and he goes, "Oh, I might have some of that stuff under here somewhere." And he starts kind of looking under the bar, and then a moment later, he sort of produces this very tiny bottle. Like it's maybe like 2 inches high. This little bottle, and he like pops the little cork off it, and he pours it into a shot glass, and then he slides it across to you, and he says, free copper.
Right, so can I use my legerdemain focus and attempt to sort of look as though I'm giving him the money, but actually not giving him anything?
You can try.
I'm gonna try.
Okay, so legerdemain is
Dexterity.
a dexterity check. Okay.
So it's 2d6 plus 2. Plus
Yeah,
for it being-
I'll say it's a challenging test. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you kind of look like, you look like you're paying. Like you reach down into a pocket, and then you then reach your hand up, and as you kind of hold your hand up, you conjure a little magic, and it makes it look like you're holding up a 2 copper coin and a 1 copper coin between your thumb and your finger, but it's just an illusion. And you kind of like flip it towards him, and he catches it, and he smiles and turns away to put it, behind the bar. And he's just like, he doesn't know anything strange has happened at all.
Cool. So I'm just gonna sit sort of with this huge shot glass, like.
Yeah, the shot glass is like, a night's drink to you. It's
Not
huge.
quite as big actually, because you said it'd be about an inch.
I suppose so, yeah, but it's okay. It's a shot glass for most people, and it's like a whole pint to you.
Okay.
Does anyone else wanna do anything in the saloon?
I'll just go up to opposite end at bar to Swig and ask for a beer in Dwarvish.
Okay, so maybe there's this other dwarf there, like a dwarf lady, sort of middle-aged lady, and she just asks you, what do you want, friend?
Beer.
Beer. Okay, so she just like pours you nondescript beer, slams it down on the table in this sort of big tankard, and she just holds out a hand and says, 2 copper.
I'll just give her a copper, or 2 coppers rather,
Okay,
and then
sure.
down it in one.
Okay, sure. So you down it, and she kind of like eyes you as you down it, and then when you're done, like both her and the bartender who was serving Tolly kind of like just kind of thump the bar in appreciation that you're a tough guy who can hold his drink, and that's what they do.
I'm gonna get out like a water skin or something that I've had like strapped to my on me somewhere. It's probably full of like saurian drink, and I'm just gonna like swig some of it, and then I'm gonna like look at Kavod and just hold it out to him and nod.
I'll take some of those drinks and pass it back.
I'm gonna see how he reacts.
Why?
Nothing. Yeah, I'll just go
Okay.
and sit down some.
Okay, so maybe Crossek sits down at an empty table, and on the table next to him, well, for funsies, why doesn't Crossek make a perception test? Yeah, that's what I'm making you do.
Perception. Okay. $11.
Okay, so Krosik is down at this table, kind of like off in the corner, where it's maybe, you know, by the window, like there's not many people there, and can't help but notice that there's this rather odd couple, maybe a couple of tables away from him. I'm just trying to find if I have the artwork ready for you guys.
Can I just start like scribbling in my book? Like, right?
Oh yeah, totally, yeah. Like you're sort of like scribbling in your book, maybe glancing over the top of the page, just kind of like suspiciously in case anyone's trying to read it.
I'm just drawing the big head that was over the bar and like making some notes next to it.
Okay.
I come over and sit at the same table with you. After I'm down there.
Okay. Do you want to do anything, or are you just sort of like sitting down and
No,
you
I'm
know?
just gonna sit and whistle to myself or something.
I'll like my eye's gonna twitch, and then I'll carry on with my writing.
I'm gonna keep edging closer to you.
I'm just gonna sit still, and I'm just gonna turn my head and look at him, and I'm gonna get out some like really nasty, gunky looking herbs and like offer them to him.
What, like just put some herbs in your hand and just hold them out?
Yeah, like probably make him retch or something.
Yeah, I'll move away again and giggle to myself.
I'll put them back in my pocket.
Okay. So, in answer to your perception check, I'm slightly annoyed because I seem to have lost some of the artwork, but I'm going to put some of the artwork in the Discord channel.
Okay.
I've no idea where the other one's gone.
Can I like nudge Blint and like sort of nod my head towards them as well, so he notices them?
Okay, sure. So, you kind of... What catches your eye is a couple of tables away from you, there's this couple playing cards. And you notice that there's this... You guess it's a dwarf, mostly just judging by the height. But you can't really see any of him. It's like the artwork I've just put in Discord. It's this short, maybe 5-foot figure with like an upturned cowboy hat, and they seem to be wearing some kind of armor, and there's little exhaust pipes kind of reaching back from their shoulders, and from those exhaust pipes like little steam clouds are erupting, and that's what sort of caught your attention because you didn't really care until you saw that, but it struck you as kind of odd. There's this person with like steam pumping out of them.
Do they look suspicious, or like are they trying to avoid?
They're just playing cards. They're just playing cards with this other person who I have now finally found the artwork for, if you want to look at Discord. The sort of mysterious dwarf person with the steam clouds is playing cards with this woman. Basically, she's an elf woman. She, you know, is fairly typically attired for a Confederate elf. Like, she's sort of like wearing a corset and some trousers, and the only thing that's really remarkable about her is that she seems to have a mechanical arm.
The bird.
Yeah. Wait for the bird. So she has this mechanical arm, which, okay, that's remarkable, but like it's not unheard of. You know that veterans of the Civil War have mechanical arms. Like if they lost a limb in the war, like many veterans have had like their arms or their legs replaced with sort of mechanical parts. And sort of sitting very quietly behind her on the seat is this hawk, which has a little leather helmet over it and little goggles over its eyes. And if you look closely, it's sort of got sort of glass and diamond and other elements built into its wings, but it's just sort of sitting there, almost supernaturally patiently behind her while she plays cards silently with this weird sort of steam machine dwarf person.
Have they noticed us, or have they...
No, they're totally engaged in their game. Like one of them puts down a card, and the other one sort of stares for a good 5 seconds, and then they slam down a card, and then the next one puts down a card, and it just sort of carries on like that. It's almost like, a fight could erupt 2 feet away from them, and they wouldn't notice. They're really focused on each other.
Can I do? Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead.
What would you like to do?
I was gonna say, you know, when we were working out with my mechanical knowledge and crap, I don't think I actually ever added. If I had, I think I decided I have to learn a focus for it. I can't remember if I said that or not.
Sorry, for what? For sort of mechanical knowledge.
Mechanical stuff.
Um.
Oh no, because that was all to do with growing as a class later on, wasn't it? To be a tinker. Oh no.
I would. If you want to make.
See if I can do a perception check to see if I can tell what the hawk is.
Okay, so assuming you
I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the focus for it. So.
If you look over your shoulder and notice, given your background as a Fey folk.
To see if there's any saurians or anything.
Okay, yeah, sure. You look around and you're slightly dismayed to see there aren't any saurians at all in this whole bar. It's just you and Kavod, and that's it. Sorry, did you hear that? Sorry, you didn't hear anything I said, did you? No, I was pressing the wrong key. Okay, you look around the bar and no, there's no other saurians around whatsoever. It's just you, Kavod, and that's all you can see in the whole saloon.
Even in the upstairs bar area?
As far as you can see, yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna keep drinking my weird saurian drink.
Okay, so to answer Tolly's question, I'm assuming you've maybe looked over your shoulder, just to where the other two are, and you've seen this odd couple. If you want to know something about the hawk, I'll give you a +1 bonus, because you do have a knowledge of, machinery and, mechanical knowledge and that kind of thing, if you want to try and do a test to see if you know much stuff about the hawk.
I do. I want to do a perception check to see if I can tell.
Okay, so if you do a perception with an additional +1. So you normally have +4, so you'd have +5. Okay, so you look at this person who's sort of sitting near to your Saurian. I want to say Saurian friends, but I mean you just met them today. But those people that you know,
companions.
Yeah. And it interests you because that hawk is clearly augmented with formatic technology. Formatic being the blend of arcane magic with modern machinery. You don't know exactly its function, but that kind of glass and crystal additions to its wings and the sort of goggles that are over its eyes, they obviously are cutting edge technology.
Okay. So I'm just sort of fascinated by this thing then.
Yeah, pretty much.
On the picture of the bar, it's there's a what's it? there's like a notice board by the looks of it. I don't know if that's an accurate representation.
Yeah, no, I'm going with it as fairly accurate. So
Can I wander over there and see if there's any like interesting requests for help or sort of?
yeah, sure, okay. If you go up to it, it is covered. I really mean covered, like as in people have put notices on this thing and then just stuck more notices on this, and then stuck more notices on it. So I'm gonna ask you to make a perception check to kind of like filter through all the various notes that are on it.
Okay. Making a lot. 8. Oh shit. Sorry guys. Gonna find us a crap quest.
Oh man. Okay, so you kind of like filter through it, but like it's just like a lot of crap. Like people asking for help, people advertising for jobs, people like putting up, you know, we're all dunes type notices. Like you don't see anything particularly useful. It's just full of all kinds of useless information.
Okay, I'm just gonna kind of look disgruntled. I'm just gonna go and sit down next to Twig at the bar and maybe suggest that, or like just tell her and sort of point out that it's there, see if she is interested in.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave my drink at the bar that I've drunk sort of half of, I guess.
Your little shot glass of
Can I
nectar.
and sniff it?
Yeah. It's,
What-
it's overwhelmingly, sickeningly sweet. Like, it smells like sort of melting sugar. It's that sort of smell.
I'll just put it down and like slowly push it away from me.
Yeah, I'll also have a look at the job board.
Okay. Do you want to make a perception test to sort of filter through all the notices on it?
There we go.
Okay, so you're looking through it. Again, it doesn't seem that exciting. It's like people advertising for work. There's a few ATC notices saying like, join the ATC today, like receive all of our insurance benefits and that kind of thing. And then you pull on this one notice which doesn't look interesting, and it just like falls off the drawing pin that's holding it. And underneath it is a wanted poster. And on the wanted poster is this very, very good drawing of Calpurnia, the hobgoblin who was on the train. And underneath it, it says, wanted, known criminal. If this hog is seen in Prosperity Junction, notify the rangers immediately.
So, I'm gonna, pick this thing up.
Yeah.
And flutter back over to Krosak and be like, look at this thing, this is the girl from the train. Oh my god, what did you do? Who is she? Oh my god, this is such a good drawing. Oh my god.
Okay, so Krosak's at the bar, right?
Yeah, I'm just kind of sitting there. I'll can I gesture for the other two to join us?
Yeah, sure. Assuming the other two want to join you.
Yeah.
That's up to Canny and Bwapi.
Okay.
I'll join in a non-committal way.
Okay, so like maybe you kind of wander up, like shrug your shoulders sort of thing.
Like, stay like right on the edge and everything.
Okay.
Right, I'll have a look and then I'll just like I'll like whisper to them really really quietly like, yeah, that she was with that Saurian girl had some pretty hefty Saurian magic in her. I think we should be careful with everything that's going on with them. Do we want to let the hobgoblin know they're looking for her? Maybe ask her what's going on, or do you think we should just turn her in?
About,
Sorry?
like, where is Cal? I can't remember her name.
Oh, you weren't there for that bit, but
Oh, yeah.
they could tell you that they left her at the chapel,
Yeah.
which is kind of like a religious place, but it's also a place where healers are. They were looking after the Saurian kid.
Right, so
Maybe Twig kind of like flips over the notice while you're talking about it, like flips it over in Krosik's hand, and there's a substantial reward on there. Like there's 25 gold is sort of stamped in red ink on the back of the paper.
We should tell the hobgoblin.
I agree with enough.
What did you say? What did you say, Buck? You want to let her know?
Yeah, let her know. Go and make sure she's alright.
Yeah, I'm like, she's really nice. I liked her. She was a bit crazy, but
Yeah, she did help us. But
She
with
helped
this,
a lot.
no.
Fair enough. Okay, so you sort of start making for the stairs, like down to the ground floor. And as you do, you remember the elf with the bird? She slams down her cards on the table, and she's like, "Fine, you win." God, I hate playing cards with you. And you can carry down the stairs if you want. It's up to you.
Can we? Like, is anything else happening?
No, it's just kind of like that. Like, she slams down her cards. She's kind of annoyed. The hawk over her shoulder sort of bristles its feathers a bit, but that's all that happens.
I'll just walk out then.
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, no follow.
Okay, so if you go out, and I will dump you back into the generic Prosperity Junction artwork again. Because I like doing that, because I can.
If I just like out of interest, if I explain to them about the blood magic and stuff going on, would their characters like understand what it means, or would it just be like, oh, what's blood magic?
It's a very Saurian thing.
Right.
So,
understand, but, like,
Cavod might know what you're talking about. The others, I'd be really surprised if they knew what you're talking about.
I won't mention anything. Then I'll just kind of feel like, yeah, they're both potentially very dangerous. So we
Okay.
should be careful.
Fair enough.
Tell them that.
Okay, so I'm assuming, you leave the saloon, you get onto Gold Street, which is sort of the main street in the town, where high noon jewels happen, and the shops and things. Are you planning on, I'm assuming you're going to the founding chapel, where you left them. Okay, sure, so you head down the street. It's kind of like dusk at this point. There's a few people milling around from the crowd before, but like it's generally kind of quieted down. The shops are closed, and you head down to the chapel, which is one of the few buildings which has a light inside. You go inside, and it's actually much the same as Krosik left it. Like Nyx, the Saurian girl, she's kind of like laid out on this very simple stone altar. And there's candles burning everywhere, and there's these three hooded people. You can't even tell, like what race they are. They're just wearing these very sort of heavy hoods that cover their faces and everything. They're sort of waving their hands over her and muttering incantations. Meanwhile, Calpurnia, the hobgoblin, she's sort of like sitting in the front pew of the chapel, so she's kind of like sitting at the front bench, like looking after her rifle, her pig iron. She's kind of like polishing it and looking after it and like checking it like repeatedly, that kind of thing.
I'm gonna walk past her and like I'll nod to her to make sure she notices I'm there. And then I'm gonna walk up to the three like hooded guys, and I'm gonna say to them in like very guttural, like, I thought you said she didn't need more healing. What are you doing to her?
Okay, so they basically look at, like, as one, those three people raise their heads, and you can see that underneath the hoods there's like two elves and a human underneath, and they basically say, "We are connecting her spirit to the Lone Rider. Only the Lone Rider knows her journey."
I'm gonna like look at. Is it her name Calpurnica? Or
The kid or the hobgoblin?
the hobgoblin.
The hobgoblin's called Calpurnia. You know from your very, very long train journey.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm gonna look at her and be like, do you trust these people? Does she know I'm there?
Yeah. She sort of looks up at you from like kind of like tending to her rifle, and she goes, "I don't trust anyone, but they said they could help my child, so I'm giving them one night to help her."
Can I make an arcane like lore check or something to see if they're doing anything dodgy? Or-
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Yeah. Hold on. 3d6 plus 6.
So you'll be what? Yeah, 3d6 plus 6.
Yeah, 15.
Okay, so, kind of maybe withdrawing yourself from the material realm a little bit, you know, just sort of focusing on the magical energies. You can sense that their hand movements and their chanting have a very minor impact on the magical energies in the room, but ultimately they're not really doing anything positive or negative to the child. They're just sort of, well, chanting and moving their hands around. There's a very slight magical current in the air, but nothing particularly impressive.
Okay. Do any of them, like, if I'm in the spiritual realm, do any of them look particularly dangerous as far as...
No. They don't look any different, really. Like, sort of gazing into the spiritual realm, you would expect maybe powerful individuals to look sort of very, very bright or very, very dark, but they just look kind of
normal?
average to you.
I'll just kind of, like, I'll mutter amateurs and then just, like, go and sit down next to the goblin. I guess, did Tolly take the notice thing?
Yeah, I'm still holding it.
Okay,
And
sure.
I give it to Raj, and I'm like, I'm not subtle enough. I'm gonna shout everything. Take it. Go to it.
I was gonna get you to do the same thing.
So what? So maybe like Twig and Blint, like maybe Blint reaches for the note, and then they both kind of like, with it of a hand both on the note, kind of like move it towards them and kind of go, look. It's very unsubtle.
Okay, I'm gonna, like, I'll sit down right next to her and not to, like, look at her threateningly, but I'll just be like, so were you planning to tell us that you were a wanted criminal? And I'll, like, I'll hold the note just, like, so it's pointing at her, but, like, not so that I'm, like, holding it up in the middle of the air.
Sure. Okay. So she takes it from you, if you allow her to take it.
I'll just hold it. And
Okay. So she kind of like puts a hand on it and sort of holds it tightly while you also hold it tightly.
Yeah.
She goes, well, she says, almost not to you, just to herself. She's just like, I didn't expect they'd find us so quickly. And then she looks up at Krosak, and in a low, kind of like confiding voice, she says,
Oh, I can't hear you.
No, it's okay. I'm just thinking what she says. She basically says, I didn't expect that they'd follow us to Umber. As you can guess, Nyx isn't my child. I took her from her real parents, well, she kind of looks down at the floor and she says, during the war, I took her from her real parents because her real parents wanted to sacrifice her because she has great power in her blood. I was one of the 5th Battalion Like we turned against the Imperium in the war. We wanted to help the rebels. And one night I came across this house where this Saurian family was trying to kill her and child, and I didn't even think about it. I just killed them. I killed Nyx's mother and father. I didn't know at the time what they were going to do to her, but like I've kind of learned since. There's something very special about her. You saw it on the train. She can do incredible things, even though it hurts her. She can help people when they're in great danger.
I'll
And
just be like, well, you probably did the right thing. Maybe
She's
try
sort
and
of-
comfort her a little bit.
okay, so she kind of looks at you, and she's got quite sad eyes, and you know she's quite a tough hobgoblin, and maybe for the first time you notice that she's got scars on her. Like she's kind of got burn marks around her neck. She's got scars on her arms. She kind of looks you really in the eyes, and she captures your attention. And she's like, I saw awful things during the war, but I couldn't let them hurt that child. And after the war ended, people seemed to be trying to find us. Like wherever I took her, wherever we went, people were always looking for us, Saurians especially. So I brought her here to Umber because I have a sister who lives at Gil's Ranch, and I thought maybe she could hide us. And I saw what you did at the crash, when the train crashed. Like, I think you're a good person. If you could help us, like if you could help me get Nyx to Gil's Ranch, I would be beyond grateful. And I know that Nyx would be grateful for the rest of her life.
I'm gonna say, like, do you think this is the kind of power that you can really, like, stop her from using, or, like, hide? Because eventually something's gonna happen and you're not gonna be able to stop it. Don't you think you should try and, like, teach her how to use it, or find someone that can teach her? Instead of just hiding her away.
Okay, so she looks from you to Nyx on the altar, and there's this long pause, and she says, I don't know how to help her. I just want to keep her safe. If you know any way of helping her, I would welcome it.
Well, I'm going to explain that, like, the kind of power she has can also, like, rip the life from people's bodies, because you said it was, like, they would use sacrifices as well to do the magic instead of their own blood.
Yeah, traditionally they would use a sacrifice victim's blood to power the magic.
I'm gonna explain that to her and be like, that might accidentally happen if we don't find some way to help her, or, like, help her.
Okay,
Not
so
fucking-
she sort of maybe huddles forward and clutches at her rifle a little tighter, and she's like, I know, I've seen it happen, but I don't know what else to do except to keep her safe.
I'm just gonna look at the others at this point and be like, what do you guys think? Do you think we should just help the other guy, or?
I've been sat here slack-jawed this entire time, like, what? What happened? Oh my god, this is crazy. And immediately, I'm like, we will do anything we can, volunteering everyone, like, I'm not even asking. We are all going to help you solve this thing and look after this girl.
Can we make the journey while Nyx is asleep?
That's I'm assuming you're asking that question.
Yes. Sorry,
Um,
I'm asking.
Okay, you kind of ask that, and it falls on relatively deaf ears, like the three hooded people who are looking after Nyx don't respond, and Calpurnia kind of looks almost clueless.
How far do we know? Do we have that map? Does that show us how far it is to Gills Round?
Oh wait, she didn't. My memory's terrible. Calpurnia drew something for you, didn't she?
Yeah. Really bad map.
Okay, so if Krosek looks at that map,
She just did like a really
a
rough
very
map.
rough drawing. Okay, you know what? Make a an intelligence check, and I'll give you +2 since you've already got the crude map.
Okay. Hold on. Would like historical lore or anything? I guess that wouldn't make a difference because it's not really.
I don't think you know the history of Umber, so no.
How much? You give me +2 for the roll.
Well, no. Normally you get +4 for your intelligence,
Yeah, so +6 in total.
so I'll give you +6. Yeah.
17.
Okay, so based off the map she's got, which she kind of confides in you, is basically memorized from what her sister gave her. You have a reasonable idea of, like, oh, okay, this place is maybe 30 miles away from Prosperity Junction. I'm just gonna upload something to the Discord channel quickly.
Oh, yeah, I've got the world map up in another.
Do you have the... Essentially, I want to give you the zoomed in map. But anyway, if you have the world map, if you look at... Right, okay, so on the world map, Prosperity Junction is marking quite a wide area with a golden compass. And that's essentially like Prosperity Junction plus the various mines and subsidiary like areas that it controls. And to the west of that, you can see like this little dotted line towards somewhere called Gill's Ranch in the Eastern Flats.
Yep.
Okay, so based off that test, because you're a smart cookie, you kind of like piece together the bits and you get an idea of, okay, so there's this road that leads kind of northwest in a meandering fashion towards this place called Gill's Ranch. You don't know anything about Gill's Ranch, but you've seen it on maps before, you've seen it referenced in newspapers and in a couple of books and stuff like that. So you've got a reasonable idea from her crude drawing.
How long would it take us to get there? Do we know that or?
You don't really know because you're new to this world. Like I say, it's about 30 miles, so you could make an estimated guess that it's maybe what, a day or two on horseback and several days on foot. Like you don't really know because you're on an entirely new world. But like that's what you'd guess: a couple of days on horseback, maybe several days on foot.
I'm gonna like step up for a bit, and I'm gonna like go and talk to the others away from Calpurnia, and be like, so do we wanna check this out? Do we wanna help them, or do we wanna go and see what the other guys do? Do we wanna help the halfling guy?
We can't help the halfling guy. We've got to help this hobgoblin, and more importantly, the girl.
We should have.
But it's one girl or the whole town's safety potentially.
But it's a little girl. Okay.
I feel like we're gonna end up doing it anyway.
All right.
You don't have to.
No.
You can legitimately reject this if you don't want to do it.
I mean, like, Tolin is just gonna be like, we got to.
Okay.
What was Buffy gonna say?
But just be aware this is a legitimate choice. You don't have to do this.
Blint, what were you gonna say? Wappy.
I'm just saying, she saved his lives with bloody well over.
Yeah.
Questions, do we go now? Well, as soon as possible. Or do we wait for her to wake up?
I mean, I mean, I don't know enough about this kind of magic. I know what she's doing and like kind of a bit about how she's doing it, but I don't know. It's kind of negative. She might just be asleep, but she could be in some kind of coma for overusing her powers. So I don't understand enough about it. Maybe if I had enough time to study her, I could like work out what's going on. But I don't know. Do we want to transport her while she's asleep? Maybe she won't talk as much then.
But it's dangerous for the hobgoblin to be there.
Yeah, but I guess we'd have to take her with us.
Yeah, we can't exactly take the girl and not take the.
Oh no, but I mean, like, the choice is we either stay until Nyx gets better, but the longer we stay, the more dangerous it is for.
Capernia. Maybe we can come back and help the halfling after we've done this. Maybe we won't
Everything
be
will be
there.
fine. He's a tough guy.
Are you
Ish.
kidding me? He
Well,
had like a scratch on his leg and he thought he was gonna die. I'll get up and I'll be like, okay, then we've decided to help you.
Okay, so Calpurnia kind of like, she's had this scowl on her face the whole time you've been in the chapel, and as soon as you say that, for the first time, she kind of looks almost happy. She kind of like raises her eyebrows, and there's this slight grin at the corner of her mouth, and she says, "Thank you." Like, I was honestly scared about taking Nyx to Gil's ranch by myself, but if I have help, I think we might just have a chance of making it.
Can I ask her if she has any money to hire horses? Because I'm skint.
She shrugs her shoulders. She says, I have nothing. Like, I spent everything I had to get my ticket on the Golden Express for me and Nyx.
Does anyone?
we ask the halfling, because he's the sheriff now,
Oh yeah, he could.
and we could come up with some excuse for what we're doing.
What were you gonna say, Wappy?
Can't we just steal it?
We're meant to be the law enforcement of this town. I don't know if we could steal it.
Well, again, you can. Just be aware there's consequences.
Yeah.
As I'm just gonna suggest, as I'm both small and I've got sort of decent legerdemain abilities, maybe I can unhitch the horses without anyone noticing.
Okay. I'm just gonna, because it's coming up to 11 and it's getting quite late, like saying that I'm probably gonna end it at this scene. So if
Yeah,
you're
I thought
talking
that's
about
good
like
anyway.
preparations for journeying to somewhere else, like, it's probably gonna call it
Yeah, that's
the
cool.
session to an end. So if there's anything else you would like to do before this little scene in the chapel comes to an end, now would be the time. Otherwise, I'm probably gonna draw a line under it here for tonight.
No, I think I'm alright.
I'm pretty happy. I'll go and collect Nyx and like shoo the healers away and be like, fuck off.
Get the horses first.
Okay, so the pilgrims maybe like kind of clutch their little horseshoe necklaces that they wear, and kind of like maybe whisper some words against you, but otherwise they retreat and they allow you to gather up this little tiny bundle of Saurian in
I'll
their
wrap her up
arms.
in my cloak and like carry her away.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, we'll go and find some horses or some moles.
Okay.
You don't need one for. So, yeah, I'm done.
Cool. Okay, in that case, I feel the need to call an end to this for tonight.
Yeah, that was good.
It's really good fun.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you had a good time. I am interested in how that's developed. I will say it's not how I expected it to develop, but I'm pleased that it did.
I think at the end of the campaign, we should find out what you expected us to happen. What you
Yes,
thought
yeah,
was gonna-
definitely. I will give you a timeline of how I thought it would go, and then we'll see just how very, very divergent it went.
And if we didn't compare the two groups.
I am super excited because you are Group A, and we will have Group B. I am really interested to see how different it goes in terms of the same storyline but with different players.
Do you think that the people from Group B are going to watch our thing?
I'm gonna encourage Group B not to watch this video because obviously there's spoilers.
I was going to say, do you think, if I'm not trying to push you or about, like maybe upload both sessions at the same time? Like, so like, you record our session and keep it till next week after their session recorded both.
I will if I can. I think YouTube might sort of automatically save
Yeah, it does.
a video, but I don't know if it sort of makes that video official, if that makes sense. I'll just have to find out. Probably with Nich's help.
Cool.
Nitch is our guild leader, so he knows all.
That was a great first session. I really enjoyed it. It was the first time I've really properly played D&Ds.
Okay, I'm glad you did, because I thought maybe I was throwing you too many curveballs with combats early on and that kind of thing. But I'm glad you did. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I didn't get to give anyone kush though, sadly. Or maybe
You
I
didn't
did.
get to what, sorry?
I was gonna make people smoke some drugs, but didn't get around to it.
I'm sure the time will come for you to make people smoke herbs.
I really wanted to take one of the gnolls prisoner and like bring him back. with me.
Oh, okay, just to clarify, you can, like, when you kill someone, you are allowed to say, oh, I don't really kill them, I just kind of, like, reduce them to 1 health and, you know, they're
Well, I was gonna
knocked
do that
out
with
or
the
whatever.
gnoll that I kicked in the balls, and then you made him run away. And I was just like, no, I wanna keep him.
Oh, okay. For future reference, feel free to say if you want to, like, knock someone out or whatever, because,
Okay.
you know, you have an
Yeah,
option
yeah.
to do that. As a general rule, I am happy for you to say, I do whatever, and I will try and accommodate it as long as it's reasonable within the narrative. Just because I have a planned out story doesn't mean that you can't completely fuck with it if you want to. I would almost encourage it. So
Cool.
Awesome.
Also,
Cool.
it's really cool because this is so sort of like speech based that I can be really involved and still I'm like I've been drawing stuff through the session like to do with the
yeah, I've
the
seen.
game. I've just drawn a picture of Twig and her tumbler of drink. Looking very pleased with herself, but it's not quite done yet.
I kind of imagined her like sitting on the bar with like her legs either side of the shot
Yep,
glass, just,
that's
like,
exactly how I've drawn it.
Yeah.
Damn drunkard.
Damn drunk fairies. God.
Okay, well, I'm gonna wrap it up for here. We will reconvene in a couple of weeks, and we'll see what you actually do to help next.
Yeah.
Drain